It's the Mike Schickman Show for a Monday, the 28th. Hope you're doing well today. We are efforting our first guest, Holly Nicholas, on collectibles and stuff like that there. Holly is a CPA. She's also known as the money therapist. And we're going to talk a little bit about business, and we're going to talk about collectibles because, you know, I don't know if it's fact or fiction or whatever, but there seems to be a lot of folks who believe that collectibles are the way to a fortune. And since the new Star Wars movie is out, and we're hearing so much about what those original Star Wars figures and figurines and toys and you name it, what they're worth today, Holly's going to talk a little bit about that. And then later on we're going to talk about, we are very pleased to have joining us this afternoon, Ms. Holly Nicholas. She is the money therapist. Our phone lines are open if you have a question for Holly at 433-9782, 540-433-WSVA. Holly, welcome to the Mike Schickman Show. How are you?
How are you?
I am wonderful.
Yeah, off this week, enjoying life.
You know, how was Christmas for you and your family?
It's wonderful. I actually married an Italian. It's Signorelli now.
There. Well, I wondered. I thought maybe, you know, you did it like we used to do in the old days. People changed their names or just used their first two.
Oh, yeah. I waited like a couple of years because my business was under Nicholas for so long. So people call me both names. It's no big deal. But, yeah, there's always a party when you're in an Italian family. Lots of wine and food.
I take it you didn't starve.
What?
You did not starve. I take it.
Never.
No. One of the reasons, there are a couple of reasons we wanted to have Holly on our program. And among them were, and the Star Wars movies kind of brought this back because all we saw in the last week or so were stories about how the original Star Wars figurines and such, how much money they were worth today. And
right.
Then I thought of all the other so-called big-time things that were going to be worth a lot of money, and most of them have fizzled, haven't they?
That's right, yeah. You know, like they say, once it's out in the news, then it's no longer, you know, going to be valuable, because obviously the people that saved the original figurines from the original Star Wars, those are the ones that made a lot of money. Now it's too late. They've already sold billions of products right now, so no one's going to be buying it in 35 years because everybody will already have it, right?
Holly, how did you become the money therapist?
Well, I've been a CPA for 26 years, and back in 2008 we had this big economic crisis again, and it was pretty much worse than ever because I've been through 3 major market downturns, and I saw this very scary pattern, which was when the economy started to turn around, especially here in Dallas, because Texas does have a great economy, people started to make money because I work with mostly business owners, and they started spending like crazy. And I call it a spending starvation, that when you've been without money or you had made less money because of the economy and people get scared because they wonder, is it ever going to be good again? And then when it is, and maybe they get a bonus at work, you know, if they are a W-2 person or their business does well, they're like, well, I'm not going to have another year like this. Like they just assume that the bottom's going to drop out. So there's this fear about money. And I realized that you could tell somebody all day long what they're supposed to do, but the reason that our country just continues to deteriorate, besides political issues, is because we as a collective are so emotionally exhausted from all the ups and downs that we're making bad decisions. And I feel like if we don't change the way we look at money and make decisions, then we really are going to lose the middle class, and that would be catastrophic. You know, when in other countries where the middle class disappears, it doesn't come back.
Well, and one of the great examples is Japan. Because Japan has been in stagflation for so long.
Right.
And they are a graying economy, kind of like the U.S. economy. There are more people who are over age 50 than under it. And next thing you know is, and you know, we talk about a Social Security crisis, we talk about a Medicare crisis. The truth is, there's not enough money. You know, if you're spending all your money on keeping Social Security afloat and Medicare afloat, you know, and then we have the biggest military budget of anybody in the world. Next thing you know, boom, we're out of money.
Well, and that's why we need to kind of take this into our own hands, because so many people, and this again is very big in places like Dallas where the economy is good, you have a lot of people that are making 6 digits. They have low income, but they still have nothing to show for it. And Generation X, which I'm part of, but Generation X has the worst, you know, history of having a lot of education, a lot of single parents, and no savings. And then the lack of savings is because they didn't put the savings first, like the generation before Gen X. They saved first, and they spent what they had left over. And people right now, they really want the instant gratification of having something now, or the emotion of jealousy. You know, I want to have what this person has, the whole keeping up with the Joneses, instead of actually creating balance, which is the most important thing that somebody could do when it comes to money. Because if you are truly balanced, then you're going to put money in your savings, and you're going to pay your credit card debt down, and you're going to do something for yourself too, and hopefully something for someone else, so that the money's just flowing, right? And people don't do that, so they go and try to pay off their credit cards, and they're just, every day is about paying off debt. They don't even want to go to work anymore, and that, again, is what leads to the spending spree. It's that feeling that you're not getting anything. Whereas if you just balanced how you spent your money, then you wouldn't have that feeling of lack.
Holly Signorelli, our guest, CPA, the money therapist, 433-WSBA, 540-433-WSBA. If you have a question for Holly, let's go to the phones. Hi, you are on the air with Holly Signorelli.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Great. How about yourself?
Good, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for taking my call. And I had a question for you. I think, you know, based on, you know, we're talking about economics, and I think one of the biggest issues is really, in my opinion, I mean, some of these kids, if their parents aren't paying their school loans, meaning not that they're defaulting, but if the kids have to pay their school loans, I mean, they're walking out of school with $100,000 worth of debt. And
yeah, this is
they won't be able to buy a house. They won't be able to get a credit card. Won't be able to buy a car because their income might be low. And I think it's just a nightmare.
It is a nightmare, and this is a big subject that was taking place a couple of months ago, because the cost of college, the increase is 5 times greater than any other inflation. So every year, the inflation of college is 5 times greater than the inflation of anything else. So the classic example I always use is, if your car payment went up 5 times more than anything else, not 5 times more than the payment every year, but 5 times more than anything else goes up in inflation, you would probably have to decide to get a less expensive car. So it's the same thing with college. Is these parents can't afford college anymore. Only about 25% of parents can afford college. And that is why these kids have the student loan debt, but also the counterpart of that is they still want to go to a big university, and you don't have to go to a big university to get a good education. And it's okay to start with community college and things like that. And there's a ton of scholarship programs, too. So part of it is the overall economy and parents' ability to pay for it, and also there has to be a compromise. Because you're right, when kids get out of school and they're not making very much money, and they have student loan debts right from the beginning, they start off with bad credit, and they can't get an apartment, just like you said. So it's a very serious problem. And I don't know why the colleges are going up so much.
Oh, I can tell you, that one's easy. Because compared to, okay, you're a Gen Xer, compared to even when you went to school, there are probably 2 to 5 times as many vice presidents and student groups that all need administrators and administrations. And that's where the money's going. It's not going to the professors. It's sure as heck not going to the adjunct professors.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to. It's going to pay for administration. You know, it's not that college presidents are on the poor line. You know, I mean, but caller, we appreciate your call. 433-9782, 540-433-WSVA. Holly Signorelli, our guest, the money therapist. I've got to tell you the thing I enjoyed most on your website, Holly.
Right.
The shoe budget calculator.
Isn't that fun?
You know, it caught my eye, and I'm not a shoe fiend.
Right.
And I'm sorry Wendy, my sidekick, is out sick today, because I'm afraid to know how many pairs of shoes she did. When the Imelda Marcos case came out, and they were talking about her hundreds of pairs of shoes, men were much more stunned than women were.
Of course, yeah.
So this shoe calculator does hit the women a lot more.
It does. And somebody on Facebook was like, well, what if I'm not big into shoes? And it was a woman. And I was like, well, then you can replace it with whatever your vice is, because everybody has one, right? Everybody has a vice. So what it really is a luxury calculator where I've kind of backed into the math so that someone could easily enter some information, and that's what you can spend on yourself, because it's important to spend on yourself, like I was saying earlier, so that you don't go into that spending spree place. But how much you spend on yourself needs to make sense based on what you're giving and saving in the other areas.
Holly, where do people learn more about you and the Money Therapist and all the things that you do?
Well, themoneytherapist.com is my website. There's a lot of material on there, videos, blogs, all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, I'm on social media. If you pull up The Money Therapist on Twitter or Facebook, you'll find me. And also my YouTube channel, which is Holly Signorelli, my complicated last name, which is Signorelli.
Come back and join us again soon, won't you? And Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. You too. Have a great one.
That's the Money Therapist, Holly Signorelli, joining us today on WSVA. 329.